Let's have a chat, excited bestie. I have the rather unique perspective that my FYP is full of multiple sides of TikTok. And that's what we're going to talk about. Specifically, as a Norse pagan, I get a lot of Norse talk. But as a practitioner of witchcraft, I also get witch talk. That is a combo that makes me think of Hexus from Ferngully, if you're looking for the read on the vibes. And I have noticed a lot of fellow Norse pagans really struggle between the two. Do you want some advice? Take a look at everything you see on both sides and remember that a lot of it is explained by religious trauma. But that aside, you're gonna have to teach yourself to stop caring if somebody gets upset by the aspects of your practice that look different. Let me explain. I am a modern Norse practitioner. I am a modern practicing vulva. I am not a recreationist. I am not a historian, and I am not cosplaying my practice. What does that look like? Did you know that back in the day, specifically within the Viking era, is when most people are familiar with, Norse paganism goes beyond the Viking era, first of all. Second of all, many of the women wore colorful beads on the front of their bodice area. It was on clips to help hang their apron over their dress. Many historical vulva have been found with beads in their grave sites. Do you want to know how that looks for a modern practitioner? This is Loki's. It literally sits on his altar. I have dedicated it to Loki specifically. I don't wear an apron, so therefore I don't wear the clips, and I wear it more as a necklace. From one practitioner to another, you're going to have a hard time finding anybody that is exactly the same as you in practice. You're also going to struggle to find people who are completely historically accurate, and if that be the case, hey, if you want to be completely historically accurate, I'm not going to fault you for it. I do know it gets expensive. You want to know how I know? Because I am, in fact, trying to have ceremonial wear that is more historically accurate. It is expensive and it is time consuming. I think it will be worth it in the end, but it is not strictly necessary as a modern practitioner. Matter of fact, a lot of the garb that everyone talks about for the vulva is simply their best clothes. Their ceremonial garb was their best clothing. That's technically the bare minimum of what is required. Do I have a hood? Sure. Do I also just have veils that I use? Yes. Stop letting people shame you for your modern practice not being a direct reflection of historical practice. Arguably, that's very unlikely to achieve as it is. There's very precious little historical actual documentation that we have access to. It's growing, but it's not very complete. You have to do the best you can, which is why you need to stop letting people shame you about your modern practice. Remember that everything boils down to religious trauma stuff that I was talking about earlier? That need to shame you for not being completely historically accurate? Religious trauma. The need for everybody's practice to be exactly the same. Religious trauma. The need to shame each other for your religious practice regardless. Religious trauma. Don't worry about them. Do your research, do your reading, do your best to understand it from the historical and cultural practice. That is valid, and that is very important. Don't fixate on making your practice exactly mirror that. Unless that's something you are cool with taking time to work towards, it's an exercise in frustration. This life here is very short. These bodies are very fragile. We only have so much time. And this world on this ghetto rock sucks. Stop letting these religiously trauma a-holes ruin your good time. Stop holding back out of that fear. Do like I do. Tell them to go off, and if that don't work, hit your block button. As long as you are coming to the gods from a place of respect and honor, mistakes happen. That's part of the process. And anyone who's going to shame you for that, religious trauma. Watch out for those weirdos, sighted bestie. I'm one of those weirdos.